Back to wet noodles. Here we are, back again. Noodles that are wet.
Oh yeah.
It's not about noodles. It's about tech. Yeah, we missed last week because as with any niche technology, we talk about VR. It's honestly kind of surprising we had so much to talk about for the first like how many weeks we did it. It's a big year for VR. A lot of stuff is coming out for VR. A lot of tech stuff to talk about. Pretty exciting, honestly, and I'm happy that we get to see it. And I'm excited to see the rest of the year. So today is not going to be as chock full of news. The week was a bit quiet, but there were a lot of maybe rumors, maybe is the correct word. I'm not sure, leaks. And that's going to be the big news for VR for a while. I think a lot of companies like to keep their future technologies under wrap, and it obviously always gets out. Leaking is a big part of that. So we're going to have to talk about it because obviously there's going to be things there that are interesting. So today, on that note, we're talking about Apple again. We talked about Apple a lot, because Apple obviously is a big company that we know is invested in VR for sure, and obviously that's exciting. Regardless of what you think of Apple, I mean, it's still big to have a massive company like that making technology that's niche. I mean, in a way, so it's interesting. So obviously, you want to keep our eye on it to see what they do, even if it's not good. It's still good to have companies interested in investing in it. So. The only real thing that came out yesterday, actually, there was news that came out from Apple. And there was some, bad news going around about how, they're delaying again. They don't know if they want to release it. It's going to be an expensive headset, so it's probably not going to have that many people using it, right? But what happened was yesterday, Thursday, I don't know at what time, but Mac Rumors leaked that Mac Rumors is the very old Apple website that
has been around forever.
They leaked that they had spoken to a tester or somebody that worked on it, and that person reported that the headset was the best thing they've ever experienced when it comes to headsets. They said it's the most pleasant experience they ever had in VR. They said it's crazy praise that this person had for it. He said this is some of the best things they've ever seen in VR. He said he felt the most immersed he's ever felt in VR. That's all we really got from it, and it's kind of strange because that's kind of in the sea of a lot of bad news we've been hearing from Apple. So it kind of makes everybody hyped again. So I'm gonna branch this topic onto something else. But do you have any? And I'll explain to you why. But do you have any thoughts on that? Just that kind of leak, kind of in the sea of a bunch of bad news.
I have two things because Apple is very well known for having a really good form factor and just just the overall feeling of holding an Apple product is it feels premium, right? So what is that going to be like in a headset? I'm just kind of imagining those kind of aesthetics and that kind of design language in a headset. It seems pretty insane. Maybe we'll have the metal plate or something on the front, kind of like the back of the iPhones and stuff like that. But then, I kind of think actually, and we talked about it briefly a few times ago on a past podcast, but they have the pouch, right?
Yeah.
They have the purse or whatever. As dumb as it looks, I feel that experience could actually be pretty dang good, especially it doesn't have to be an extremely short or long cable. If it's the right length, it's out of your way and you don't even think about it. And then your headset is just the big VR experience. It's just a tiny thing on your head. You probably don't even feel it there.
The benefits of having a belt-mounted computer basically outweighs the cons of it, I guess, is what we're trying to say. And I agree with that. I think it could work, but it depends on what they do.
I mean, you already look stupid as fuck playing VR. You cannot look cool playing VR.
That's true.
It's not a hit to how cool you look or anything.
No one's fashionable in VR. Nobody's trying to get fashion.
That's true. I'm in fucking shorts right now.
I wanted to briefly just mention that because from what I've talked to you about, you've said this a lot, but you say a lot that companies will intentionally leak things to try to grab hype. Google's a big company for that. I just want to make a quick note. I kind of was anticipating you saying that, but you didn't. I'm surprised you didn't. But I just wanted to comment on that thought anyways, just in case anybody has that thought. I don't think Apple's a company that does that. They've never, ever done that, and I don't think their philosophy matches up with that. That's if Nintendo started deliberately releasing IPs, leaking IPs. That would make no sense to me. So I kind of don't think Apple would do that. If you think that maybe that's it, but it kind of does sound suspicious that like there's a bunch of like bad rumors going on about this headset, and all of a sudden like yesterday the rumor site like picked up on somebody
saying like really good
something
stuff
really
about
good
it.
stuff. Yeah, I get the whole suspicious part, but like I don't know. I still don't see Apple doing that, but who knows? This could be a new leaf for them. It is a new market for them.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, back to in the previous podcast, I was talking about how maybe it's already an obsolete headset, and then because they've been working on it for fucking ever, So, like,
you never know.
it could just be maybe that with some shoehorned extra features in or some shit like that. It's like whatever they get at the last minute. But then otherwise, I don't know. I'm optimistic, anyways. Apple's always been pretty good at what they do. Like, they're pretty consistent. So, I expect that kind of quality in there, in the HMD. So see how that is.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless of anything with Apple, as more headsets come in the market, more people invest in it. Regardless of who it is, it's still good. It's still good to have options, good to have competition, good to have people looking at it.
For sure,
it's going to be good to have a lot of options now. So I wanted to branch this topic off to something else. So might sound unrelated, but we're pretty sure that Apple headset is going to have OLED panels, right? OLED screens. Now, the reason why I think it's related to this leak is because one of the things that I kept saying was that I think that OLED screens are the next step for VR. I think when it comes to technologies, I don't think it's face and eye tracking, even though that's going to be an addition that I think will come. I don't think that's the next step. The next step is OLED screens, and then I would say face and eye tracking. But the next step right now is OLED screens. It's bigger than it sounds. I think people think like, okay, it's a better panel, like whatever. Like that's not. But like, this is where I want to
get the sharpness and clarity.
Yeah, this is where I'm trying to go for. So I think the Apple headset has that, and that's probably why this person said so many good things. But then B, I wanted to jump onto the recent video from Thrillseeker on the Beyond. So he had we haven't talked about it because it happened actually last week. Thrill released his early impressions of the Beyond, and he claimed to have 4,000 plus hours in this early headset. And we talked about the Beyond before. It's obviously a very exciting headset for the high-end consumer. It's very small, and it has these very crazy screens in it. But the big thing about those screens is that they're OLED screens. And again, as I've said in the past, I think the ability to turn off pixels when you're in a headset where you're trying to simulate real life is massive. And I don't think we realize that until we will try it, right? So in his video, Thrill talks about how the experience is something different. Like he said, he can't really describe. He can't say, like, oh yeah, if you use VR, like it's better. Like he said he couldn't do that. He said because it doesn't feel the same. He said, and that's something that I think is gonna be a huge step for VR. Is like, let's get screens that actually make it feel like I'm in real life, right? I think that this next wave of OLED screens and VR headsets is the next step. I think it's going to actually remove a lot of the barriers of entry. We talk about barriers of entry all the time with VR. A lot of things people put on the headset, they get motion sick. They get like the screen door and it feels weird to them. It doesn't feel real. I think OLED screens kind of eliminate a lot of that experience. And as he says in his video, he says like another thing about OLED screens we don't realize is like the pixel latency. And it's like, when you move your head around, right? Something that we don't really understand is that these LED screens, or the LED or LCD? Fuck, I forget. I think they're LCD, right? Regardless, the whole thing versus OLED is that the pixel response time or the pixel latency to change colors is there. It's very small, but it's there, and it's something that doesn't exist in real life, obviously, right? So what OLED screens do is that it has like something like a very ridiculously quick pixel response time. What it does is it kind of gives like a 3D effect what you're doing. So already you have like, I got these screens around my face. It feels like, I'm doing stuff. But then when you have OLED screens, you actually feel like there's levels to what you're seeing, because like the pixel here is actually not going to be holding the values of other colors at certain times. It's going to be instant, right? And it's going to actually give you that layered effect. So I think it's very hard to describe, but I understand what Thrill's saying, and I would definitely recommend looking at that video if you haven't. It's kind of, it's an exciting thing to think about. Right. This is a breakthrough for tech, I think, for this tech, sorry. I think OLED screens are going to help so much in selling it. It's going to have an experience we never heard before. And he even says himself, like, you look at the Beyond, and the Beyond is a headset that has less FOV than the index, and everybody before thought FOV is part of motion sickness. If I see less, I feel motion sick, right? And then also like the frame rate's lower, and everyone's same thing. If it's the frame rate's lower, like what the heck, I'm gonna feel motion sick, right? But then he says like, well, it's not actually like that with the OLED screens. The OLED screens have other properties that you don't just put into numbers. You can't just say 90 hertz, this hertz, whatever, and this
something
is
you have to experience.
And this is there's things that they don't tell you about because you can't sell. You can't sell me on the pixel in your VR headset's going to respond this much quicker. You can't sell me on that. Nobody's going to understand that. But when you put it on your head and it's right up to your eyes and you're trying to simulate what you really see in person, like that's different. And the biggest thing that it's hard to replicate is, again, that 3D layering effect. The fact that that table over there is this far away from me, right? And it's hard to sell that on a screen that is just static, right? An LCD screen is static. There's no blacks. There's nothing like that. Right? So I'm pretty excited for OLED screens after hearing his video, as well as sort of what I heard from that leak, the Apple leak, because I feel like a lot of the language that was used in that leak that the guy was talking about, how like, oh, the experience was crazy, whatever, right? It was same language that Thrill used. I feel like they're talking like very similar language there. They're talking about how the experience is crazy. You just got to see it, that kind of stuff, right? Like, it's not so much the refresh rate's better. Wow, there's more frames. It's more so I feel like I'm actually in this room, and that's one of the biggest barriers to entry for VR. And if that's something that's accomplished through these really high tech screens, I mean, phones already have these screens. It's possible. It's going to be good for the industry. So it's something exciting to see this year. We're going to see OLED screens in VR headsets. We're going to see VR headsets that you put on, you feel like you're not just putting on a big TV, right? It's going to feel better. So super excited about that. And I think it's something to keep your eye on too. New tech, new OLED screens. Very cool.
Yeah.
So even if you're not a tech person, definitely should be excited for some of this.
I mean, if you've tried the old school HTC Vive, and then you've tried an Index or a Quest, the step up from that is huge already.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a huge step up, and I can only imagine like what OLED will be like next step up. I think that's I very much agree with you on that. I think that's the next easiest next big step too. I feel like it's not that hard of a leap compared to like some of the other tech and stuff they're trying to throw in.
I only have one other bit of news that may have came out this week. I can pull it up here to get the actual numbers. If you have anything, go ahead and chime in. But what came out this week as well was some numbers. So, sorry, I still got my screen. The last time we talked about how the PlayStation VR numbers came out, and I was like, man, it didn't sell that well. It was kind of disappointing. Appears that those numbers were fudged or something. I'm not sure. There's a huge debate that happened this whole week about people saying like those numbers that we saw were actually not right. Apparently they sold a lot of headsets. Apparently they did actually have good sales. I don't remember the Sony with PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
Apparently it was good. Apparently it was fudged up numbers. And apparently I don't know. I didn't look a whole lot into it because there's a lot of arguments going on there. People were kind of mad that I guess they had these falsified numbers. But regardless, after that whole thing that came out, I think another bit of investigation happened where people, or maybe it was the analytic company behind Meta that actually did it. They released their numbers for active users, and these are the numbers we got. So. Quest 2 has 6.3 million active monthly users.
Jesus.
To put that into perspective, Steam VR has 2.7 million users. Now that's every headset. So right now Quest 2 has a lot of users, which is good.
Yeah.
So that was the numbers that we saw. And there's another number that came out. I think it was PlayStation 5. So PlayStation 5, its monthly active users, the entirety of the console was around the same, or actually it might have been like a tiny bit more. I forget what the actual number was. So basically they're saying that the Quest 2, which is a headset that people think are niche, that people think has a future, blah, 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 because there's a lot of negatives around people who don't play VR, right? It's got the monthly users. It's got a shit ton of monthly users, and it's comparable to consoles, right? So that's a good bit of news that's coming out here, is that there's actually a lot more VR users than I think people know. And this is not like people that own headsets. This is people that are active. This number is active monthly user. So that's very promising. I don't know how completely accurate the numbers are. I believe they are like pretty close though. But that was just something that happened this week. Some good to note, I guess, is that still alive and well, and that's only going to get better too. Again, when these new headsets come out, like imagine you got 6 million active users. Again, that's a crazy number, but like they probably got friends that are gamers too, and maybe they don't have VR. People are going to convince people to go into VR. The better it gets. Like there's so many cool things that people want to do. Like we are definitely on the brink of something here that's doing well. Right, VR is going to do well, and these numbers tell us that it is doing well now, and we're not even in a good form. I feel like we're not even at the best time of VR. Like we have old headsets that haven't been updated in a while. Like we have games that are coming out from indie companies. Like we're not even in the best spot, and like we have a lot of people who are using it because there's a lot of good stuff to do. So I think it's only going to get better. Like that's great numbers to look at. That's great insight for the future. So I think something to keep your eye on for sure, I think, is those numbers and how like VR is not going anywhere. Like this is perfect. And especially we talk about Apple, we talk about big screen, these other companies coming in, like that's 6 million people that they can convert over. And again, that's just Quest 2. Like I'm not on Quest 2 now. I don't add to that number. Like neither do you. Like there's a lot of people that don't. So
I've
there you go.
got 3 people in my house that do.
Okay, well, all right.
Actually, 5. Yeah, I've got 7 people in my immediate like circle that are all using the Quest 2.
But you're actually a good example. Like so you are one number of the 6 million of active users, and then you convince like 3 other people that you know to get VR because like they saw
more
it.
than that, much more than that.
Yeah. So like, that's actually an example too of how numbers work when it comes to like consumers and like services. That it will spread like exponentially.
I like that they have a referral program. I will say that.
That's a good idea. Very good idea.
I've definitely taken good advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Anyways, at least that's a good note to end off. It's a nice positive note. Do you have any tech discussions you want to do? We can even talk about anything tech. I think that's most of the VR updates for this week. Anything else tech related that you encountered this week you want to discuss?
I'm just kind of curious about your opinion on other like VR accessories. Like excluding like full body tracking. Like other kinds of accessories, maybe even like attachments, like like the gun stocks or like the feedback suits or stuff. Like, do you think there's anything like missing that nobody's thinking about yet, or do you think that there's anything actually worth getting in that regard?
The way I see
how do you feel about that
space? The way I see it is, think of the Wii. The Wii had so many unique ways of playing with the system, and it's the same for VR. Yeah. We have the controllers that you can move, the nunchucks. Like developers got really creative, and they made really creative games. For that reason, you had a shit ton of accessories. You remember the Wii had so many accessories, right?
They had a retarded amount of accessories.
Yeah, and I think that it's good. I think it's good to have third-party people developing things. It's going to give accessibility to people that need it. It's going to give people ease of use that might need it, or maybe just to have a better experience, right? I think that it's good that these accessories here, and I think that we're definitely going to see every possible thing because people are very creative out there. And you can search up like the most niche accessory for VR, and actually probably exists. People even 3D print it, right? I think that that's a good sign. I think that if you look at like PC gaming, console gaming, the Wii again, like these things weren't never required, and the majority of people didn't actually use these accessories, but they appreciated that they existed, and then it definitely benefited certain people. I think that's how these third-party accessories will be seen, even when VR starts to get even bigger. It's going to be things that are like, that's a good nice to have. Maybe I'm an enthusiast, I want that. Or I actually used the example of the steering wheel in the past. I said like the steering wheel that you can put to play like racing games on your computer, right? You don't need that. You can use a controller or your keyboard or mouse, and most people won't. But there's going to be the select few that like the wheel. It's going to be a more refined experience, a funner experience for them, right? To use that wheel. It's going to be the same thing with these accessories. It's going to be there's going to be lots of different ideas that come out. I mean, we've seen like people making like golf clubs. If you've seen them, like they connect and then you can like golf, right? And then you've seen like
there's a bunch on Amazon, like all kinds of like random stuff, like tennis racket, like type things. Tennis racket.
Like honestly, a lot of similarities to the Wii in terms of those accessories. But like, I think it's very good for the market. I hope that people continue to do that. I hope we don't see like companies trying to crack down on that. From what I've seen, Meta, Valve, they don't care if people do that, so good. I hope we continue to see that. I think it's going to be an essential part of the industry. I don't think it's going to be ever big. Again, like I said, the wheel example, it's going to be there. Some people are going to do it, but most people won't, but it's still cool that it's there. It's never going to be huge, but it's going to be a very big part of the industry. It's going to make people turn heads. Like, I mean, even people that don't use steering wheels, I'm going to keep using that example, steering wheels in like racing games, a lot of people look at them like, yeah, that looks cool as shit. People say that, and people will go play racing games even without the wheel because, they look at people who do that. Like, oh, that's cool. But you have people who are streaming and they're like sitting back and their wheel set up and they're playing racing games. Everyone's like, yo, that's cool as shit, right? That's kind of how it's going to be with this. So I think VR accessories are very, very crucial. I think they will continue to. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Yeah, I'm not personally involved with it. Obviously, I'm more of a software guy because that's what I'm good at.
Did you ever get to try one of those like standing things? Where it's like a strap that holds you and you can like run in it. And
no,
like that? You ever try one of those?
I didn't. I tried the haptic suits, but
I wonder. Right. I wonder how those are. Like if those are like. I don't know, because it like holds you in place, but then you still kind of free movement, I guess. I don't know.
I forget what the company's called. There's been a company that's been working on something similar to that for a very, very, very long time, since like 2015. There's a company that's working on like 8-way, I think it's called like an 8-way treadmill. And like I think they might have released a new version of it like within the past month. Like they've been working on this thing for years.
Oh yeah. I've seen those. Yeah,
and it's basically you have like a harness you put on your
walk in whatever direction
on your hip to like keep you stabilized so you don't fall over, and then you put the headset on, and then you physically walk, and it detects that you're walking, right? And then you're like literally walking. Like that's kind of crazy. I think that's like cool, but that's super niche.
That thing would be interesting to try. I'd be curious to see like how that is. So because I bet there's got to be a lag between like when you actually start moving forward and when you stop.
Probably depend on the game.
I imagine there's going to be an adjustment. I don't know. I think even just the thing, maybe unless they use like cameras or something to watch your body, and then it can just follow you like that. Is that or like trackers? Actually, with trackers, that would be like the easiest way to do it because it can see exactly when you're walking and then just follow it.
Right. Yeah. I think
that'd be interesting. So, what about one of those like you ever see those factory arms that they use for like car assembly, or just like one of those with like a thing that holds you? And then it's like free movement on that.
It like picks you up. They're like in a NASA test tube or something.
Yeah.
That sounds dangerous.
No, you don't even have to be. It just like straps to you. Yeah.
I don't trust the robots.
It could be potentially. It could be potentially very dangerous.
If the robots start getting mad at you, they start flinging you around.
Just don't want that.
Yeah. Do not want to get involved.
Damn.
Well, and is that all you have?
But yeah, that's all I got.
No worries. All right, cool. Well, good stuff. A lot of little bits of news there, which is good to know.
Yeah.
Obviously, not every week we're going to have a lot of exciting news, and it's kind of surprising we've had so much, and I'm happy. And I'm excited to see the rest of the year, honestly. So much is coming, so definitely we'll keep you in the know. We'll keep each other in the know.
For sure.
All right, come to my camera here. We're going to cover it up, right? That's the end. That's wet noodles. Why is it called wet noodles? Why do we... I don't know. Oh, I need an outro. This is the end.